Just checking back in with you guys. This is happening in California right now as we speak. This is live. We're just kind of watching along with you guys. You know, feel free to comment or call in if you want to. I'm just going to keep watching this and let it play. Like I said earlier, you know, pray for the first responders, the fire department that's fighting the fires right now, and the people's homes that are in the way of this fire. We're just going to continue to watch this, and from the aerial footage from the helicopter there in California.
unknown at this time. His injury unknown at this time. This is something that, well, hopefully we will be following up on. In the meantime, though, he is going to be in rescue ambulance number 37, and again on his way to a local area hospital shortly. This firefighter, we presume, was working the fire line here and was brought down the hill. He was one of those guys in that group wearing the orange jumpsuits, and again sustained some sort of a physical issue, and that is, well, what brought him down the hill, and now he is going to be on his way to a local area hospital. We'll try and get some more information for you, but in the meantime, guys, that is what's going on. The RA, the rescue ambulance, is on Palisades Drive, and again, they will be making a U-turn and heading down towards PCH to get this guy over to a hospital here shortly. Guys?
Mark, you know, in a situation like this, it could be a range of things. He could have overheated from having to climb up the hill. He could have sprained his ankle. He could have maybe possibly gotten too close to some of the flames. We won't know, but hopefully he'll be okay. Again, looks like a firefighter in one of the orange suits has been put into an ambulance and will be headed to the hospital. Courtney Friel was on Charmel Lane. She said she talked to at least one resident in that area. She's trying to get a shot up for us so we can kind of see what's happening in that area. I presume that road is going to be full of firefighters and no residents.
Yeah, at this point you would think so. Courtney, are you still with us on the line?
I am.
Are there any residents around at all?
I'm slightly concerned about this other fire that I'm seeing burning towards you guys, or further towards east in there. So if you guys might want to check on what's happening, because everyone now is looking at that fire to see what is happening with that. But what did you guys want to know here?
Just what the Charmel Lane is like. Are you seeing residents, or did they?
I'm just going to jump in here and say I'm using this under the Fair Use Act. I'm just following their live stream so that you guys can see it.
The landscaper at one house is still doing his job, and I asked him, hey, are you concerned? He's bringing out the trash right now and sweeping up leaves, and he's like, no, it's in the canyon. But there are still some people, as I mentioned, that woman who was concerned, and then just a couple other residents. I'm hesitant to walk over to them because, like I said, the cell service is so poor here. But yeah, I mean, the flames are white now, so that is good news. And I'm sure if you have the helicopter shot, you can see that it has definitely gotten a lot better out here.
Courtney, did you come down Sunset and turn on to Palisades?
Yeah, we came over Las Virgenes Road and down PCH, and traffic wasn't bad at all. But then at the intersection where I believe this all started, Palisades Drive and Sunset, which is right near the Self-Realization Center in Lake Shrine, that's closed off to people heading up Palisades Drive, and that's, I know, where they were having a lot of their firefighters and strike teams, probably like a base camp.
So I'm using this under the Fair Use Act. We're just going to continue to watch this, be with the people that are injured, keep them in our prayers, and we're just going to continue to follow this.
Location, but again, there's no evacuation orders, so I would presume that people would be able to come up. And just the seriousness, even since the time I've been here, has seemed to go from, it's less intense now because the firefighters are like, this is going to be put out.
Well, we certainly hope so, but Sky 5 just showing us some images of the north flank of the fire, the lower north flank of the fire, and there are still flames burning down there, and that's something they need to keep an eye on, or certainly try to get under control.
Oh, you guys, you know what? My photographer just told me that our picture is up, so maybe I can literally walk into the shot and show you guys some stuff, but I have to walk down the street.
We're being told that we are not going to be able to get you. We can still hear you, but we might not be able to get that shot.
It's going to be a few more minutes. We're not quite there yet.
Well,
and again, these are the flames I was just talking about on the lower north flank of the fire that continue to burn. They need to get this under control, because if it advances north, we may have a similar scene to what we had an hour ago.
All right, we're also being told that there is a mandatory evacuation order for all residents within the area bordered by Charmel Lane on the west and Vianita Avenue on the east, and that's at the end of Larchman Lane on the north and Maryvale Lane on the south. All persons in this area are directed to leave now. They're saying in a calm and orderly manner. It's not, you know, don't run for your lives right now, but it is definitely an evacuation. This is due to both potential fire and smoke behavior, as well as the pending arrival, apparently, that we've been talking about. There are going to be some large fixed wing retardant dropping aircraft moving into that area. So they're asking for people just to leave that area, evacuate, just so that firefighters can do their work due to the flames still intact, the smoke, and also the fire retardant drops that will be coming in fairly soon.
All right, again, this fire, we've been on it since a little after 11 o'clock. Courtney Field, ironically enough, was reporting on, you know, the wind danger that was coming with the Santa Ana's coming up, red flag alert at the end of the week. And she pointed out the flames from Agora Hills and the Palisades. And we've talked to her on the phone last couple of minutes. She's actually in the Palisades now, and we understand we now have Courtney live on camera. Courtney, are you there?
I don't know, guys. Do you see me? The cell phone has been, or the reception here has been very sketchy. So I'm not sure if we're coming through, but this.
No, we just lost it.
All right, so we can see Courtney's shot, but we couldn't hear her, unfortunately. It's this is a weird area in that it's hard to get a signal with our trucks sometimes, just due to the hills and the elevation where she is. So they'll continue to work, and our news center will continue to work to try to get the audio and the shot working with Courtney, so we can see actually what's happening on Charmel Lane up in the Palisades.
But there's a prime example of those flames burning very, very close to those homes. You just saw that right there as they pan back over. Look how close the flames got to that one house, or actually those three or four houses right there.
Yep.
There is going to be some damage there, but overall, these structures, firefighters were able to save them, but they will definitely have some type of fire damage.
It seems like we always see the fire come that close, and it never doesn't get onto the house. It's amazing that it's like burned that tree, burned the backyard, which possibly could have been under construction. Actually, one of these homes looked like it was under construction, but the home right there that has sort of like the light green windows was the one that was getting the most flames coming up that hill. But now when we look to the far right, that's the one even that we didn't even see that one burning when it was first happening, from our vantage point at least.
And you see we got a firefighter there on the back deck, continues to water down the hill to make sure that there's not a chance of any more flames coming up.
And as Courtney mentioned, Liberty, we're not sure where, but Courtney says that now there's possibly another fire. Do you have any information on that?
I don't have any information on the other fire. Maybe our desk can get on that. But I just wanted to talk about the winds. You know, this could have been a completely different story had the winds picked up, and if the winds were like what they were yesterday when we saw them in the double-digit wind speeds, those winds could have brought some of those embers and had some of those homes catch fire. As of now, we're being told that no homes caught fire, no homes were destroyed, so that's the good news there. But the winds could be a problem later on in the week. I'll get to that in just a minute, but I want to talk about the winds right now. They are below advisory levels. Yesterday we had them above advisory levels. We had high wind warnings in place. We had wind advisories, high wind watches. Not the case today. Those winds have really died down from yesterday. We still have high pressure as our dominating feature, and it's bringing us those winds out of the northeast. Northeasterly flow is basically offshore flow. It's what we call our Santa Ana winds, and it's very typical to see that this time of year. Right now, though, those winds, again, below advisory levels, below 10 miles an hour, so that's the good news there. The bad news is those winds also dry out the atmosphere, so we're seeing incredibly dry conditions. The humidity levels well down into the teens, so that's very, very dry out there. Temperatures extremely warm. We're talking 80s and 90s, well above the average. Yesterday, it was hot. Today is even hotter, and we're not expecting the temperatures to come down for the next week. And as I mentioned,
and it's happening up there as well. This is Charmel Lane. So when we first got here, those homes at the bottom of this street were being sprayed with lots of water, and we've seen the fire dropping helicopters come right above us and drop water on these homes. So people have been going up and down the street, and you can see over here, there's one of them, and of course the two people that I was going to talk to have ended up walking away from me. Bobby, come back here, please. I've been bugging Bobby for like 20 minutes to try to get to talk with me on KTLA, but it's been hard to establish the signal. So I first saw, we're on live with KTLA right now. I saw you on your roof.
Yeah.
And I imagine that was a pretty scary image for what you were seeing earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there was a fire burning close to my house, so I wanted to make sure that everything would be okay.
You've been here for 7 years. Have you seen anything like this before?
No, last year there was a fire just over one canyon over, but they contained it very quickly. This is definitely the closest it's ever been.
Were you ready to go if need be?
Yes, I was ready to go if need be.
Did the emergency alert come on your phone?
I did. The emergency alert came on the phone, but fortunately some friends got in touch with me, so I was able to get up here.
Where are your kids and the rest of the family?
They're not home right now, so everybody's safe.
Did you tell them to not come back anytime soon? Or?
Yeah, they're not coming back anytime soon.
Okay, so does seeing something like this make you nervous about living here when the fire conditions have been so bad year after year?
It's something you think about, but I would much rather be close to nature and take the risks that come with that.
All right, well, and I know you were thanking the firefighters earlier, and they definitely have done such a great job.
All right, here's a news conference with an update on what's going on with the fire.
Los Angeles Police Department up there, along with the fire department, initiating evacuations. We're using multiple aircraft, heavy lift, and we're also going to do a quick observation to see if we should bring in fixed wing takers in. What I can tell you about the fires, I do not have the cause, but it started at the base of Palisades Drive and quickly ran up and spread to about 18 acres in a matter of about 15 minutes. We're at 30 acres now. Firefighters are working valiantly up there to keep the lines contained. We're going to be operating out of here at Fire Station 23 for about the next 10 hours, and then we'll have resources set up at Will Rogers State Beach. Currently, like I say, 30 acres, evacuations in place. We do not have reports of any injuries. I don't have reports of any structures damaged, but I do have structures threatened. Main message for the public is to kind of stay out of this area. We will have an evacuation center set up at Palisades Recreation Center, and if you need information, we'll also have public information officers there. At this point, it's probably best if I take some initial questions because I got to get back onto the firefight. Question is, was this a homeless encampment? We do not have a cause, and while that subject comes up a lot, I don't have a cause for it right now. We have arson investigators on scene looking to see what the cause and point of origin is. The forecast, as you can tell, we're still in a really hot, dry pattern for Southern California. October is generally the month that we really feel this. The forecast is going to increase winds by Thursday. That's why we're going to put a lot of resources on it to make sure this fire is wind tested, because the winds will come back on Thursday. Yes. So this is an extremely challenging fire for hand crews. If you look at the firefighter, they're essentially clawing their way up this hillside with rocks coming down on them, carrying hand crews, chainsaws, and Chief Maroney, if you want to talk a little bit about how your hand crews operate. Is that okay?
Yeah. Tony Maroney, LA County Fire Deputy Chief, Central Region Operations Bureau. LA County responded this afternoon to assist LA City, along with our partners from MPS. What we brought to the table for LA City today was our Firehawk helicopters, our Bell 412 helicopters, and also our hand crews. So currently we have 6 hand crews assigned. They're cutting a line up each flank of the fire until they get to the ridge. We expect that we are going to be here all night long. For LA County residents, currently no threat from this fire. Specifically, any residents in LA County that live in Topanga Canyon, they're safe. There's no reason for an evacuation. We're going to continue to remain on scene and assist LA City Fire.
Yes. So right now we're evacuating about 8 residential blocks up on Charmel. I don't have a number count, but I'll probably put it in the area of probably about 200 homes that are probably impacted in that grid. Firefighter injuries, I don't have full reports on them, but I will tell you this is a physically demanding job right now. The physical prowess that these firefighters show from all of these agencies is tremendous, and nothing is insurmountable for them. They will not sleep, they will not rest until they get this fire out. The question is about the winds. Fortunately, we're coming off the Santa Ana wind event. Our only concern would be a shift in the wind, and then we begin to get the onshore breeze, and any wind would be a problem. But right now, winds are not a factor. Any other questions? I have no reports on anybody who was injured, but throughout the incident public information officers will provide updates. Like you say, I broke away from the command post to give you a quick briefing. I'm actively engaged in firefighting with my crews, and I can take a few more questions.
For those individuals who are affected by the evacuation, they see this, they say, they got it under control. Why am I still being evacuated? Your message to those individuals.
So folks can get a false sense of security. The weather can change here, and what we have is something called probability of ignition. The area around here is ripe for wildfires. So when we initiate an evacuation in an area, it's not so much also for what you see in front of you, but what they can anticipate. And it takes a while to get folks out of the way. And if you've seen in past fires, Oakland Fire and others, if we don't initiate it early enough, then it becomes a real problem for us. So we appreciate people heeding the warning. And with that, I'm going to break away, and our public information officer will be around to take notes. So thank you.
The officials at a news conference updating us.
So I'm using this under the Fair Use Act. I'm just going to continue to watch it and see how these firefighters fight it.
Saying this is going to affect about 8 blocks, which is around 200 homes in that area. He's calling this a physically demanding job and saying that they are please asking residents to heed the warning. One of the reporters asked, well, hey, this fire looks like it's out. And he said that, and I'm quoting him, that you can get a false sense of security, and they are working on what's called a probability of ignition. So to please heed the warning to evacuate when they have asked you to.
Yeah, he said that there were no injuries to report, but he obviously had not got the news about the one firefighter that we saw being loaded into an ambulance. He was one of those that was doing that physically demanding job, working on one of those hand crews. We don't know if maybe he suffered some burns, maybe took a tumble on a hill, sprained an ankle. but he has been taken to a hospital for treatment. He appeared to be conscious from what we could see from Sky 5. Meantime, hand crews continue to just try to get these what few flames left under control, which you see they're doing right there on the north flank of the fire as well as the south flank. Again, this is a combined effort of LA City Fire as well as LA County Fire. And again, they did a yeoman's job because while a lot of structures were certainly under threat today, it doesn't look like there's any major damage.
Yeah, this is a terrain-driven brush fire, and he also said there's still no cause as this hour as to why this started. 6 hand crews. Glenn just mentioned those hand crews out there. You can see from our Sky 5 advantage, 6 crews out there cutting lines. He said that basically they expect to be out there all night, basically because they need to be out there because when these winds come back in, this false sense of security, we've got to make sure those hot spots are taken care of so that the winds don't take an ember over to another area. Also, one of the firefighters who spoke said that there are no evacuations in the Topanga Canyon area and relationship to the county, that the people up in Topanga County as of right now, that Topanga Canyon area, that you are okay right now.
Boy, look at the shot we have now. The south flank of the fire, you see just that little bit of smoke, not much at all. And then on the northern side, where they're continuing to try to contain some flames at the bottom of the north side of this fire. This is amazing compared to what this looked like a couple of hours ago.
It really is a dramatic scene that we're looking at right now. When we first started, it broke out at about 10:30, 10:40 this morning. We saw those really intense flames, super high flames, just licking the side of all those houses and the pools. And those firefighters, they did their job and they certainly got this fire under control. But let's talk about the fire weather conditions out there. You know, he talked about how they have to wind test this fire. So their job, even though we don't see a lot of flames right now, their job is far from over. As you guys were mentioning, they're going to stay there all night long just to make sure that things don't start to fire up again. But prime fire weather conditions out there. These fire crews are wearing very heavy equipment. We're talking about probably 20, 30 pounds of equipment. It's very hot out there. So even if you just stand out there in a t-shirt and shorts, you're pretty warm. And then this is a very physically demanding job. They're working very, very intensely on those fire lines just to keep this fire out. But this, again, the fire weather concerns out there, here's what we're dealing with. That temperature-wise, 80s, 90s, certainly seeing temperatures above the average, very, very, very dry conditions. There's a lot of fuel that can burn. Fortunately, as we were talking about earlier in the newscast, the people, the residents in the Pacific Palisades, they did an excellent job at defensible space, so 200 feet of clearing away from their home, which certainly helped firefighters. But again, back to the weather conditions. Hot, dry weather pattern right now. This is what we see typically here in Southern California in the month of October. So I know firefighters started Monday very busy, and they're probably going to continue to stay very busy throughout the week because those Santa Ana winds, even though they're not terribly strong right now, we are expecting some pretty strong, gusty Santa Ana winds on Thursday into Friday.
Yeah, Liberty, thanks for that. You know, just knowing the firefighters not only fighting the fire in the neighborhood with the engines or from the air and the water drops, but we've seen those crews climbing uphill, dragging hoses, and also we've seen chainsaws and shovels really doing the dirty work. And as the firefighter who spoke earlier, a PIO, said that basically this is a physically demanding job, always, but specifically today.
Well, you can certainly see it with the terrain below those homes. I mean, that is a very steep canyon hillside. The fire burning right up with perfect illustration right there, that handful of homes right there, how close those flames came to destroying those properties. But a combination of LA City Fire as well as LA County Fire saving this neighborhood today, but they will continue to stay on the scene through the night to make sure that no hot spots flare up. And now we're going to continue our coverage here into the 1 o'clock hour.
All right, so again, we are following the Palisades fire here, 30-plus acres. We were watching this all morning when we came on at 11 o'clock. This broke out around 10:40, but when we came on at 11 a.m., we went straight to this Marcono, one of the first over it. And you can still see the aftermath here. These fortunate residents, there are firefighters in their backyard still using the hose to douse the hot spots that right there on the left-hand side of your screen. That's the home that almost came very close to going up today, but it really does help to have the firefighters in the backyard. Also, the helicopters coming through. We're also expecting some FOS check drops this afternoon as well, because they will be fighting this fire for hours to come, even though it looks like, oh, there it is. The aircraft coming through, and this will eventually, maybe not right here, but will possibly, we're assuming that that's what that is, but maybe not, because we could be near an airway in that area. But you are watching the KTLA 5 News at 1 o'clock. I'm Lou Parker, along with Glenn Walker and Liberty Chan. We have been following this fire, the fire breaking out just after 10:30 this morning. It quickly burned uphill.
Yeah, fire crews are keeping a close eye on the forecast as the Santa Ana winds are expected to pick up. Let's go live now to Mark Cono and Sky 5 over the fire zone. Mark?
Yeah, that's right. This one of the more active flanks of the fire here, and an awesome water drop by that city fire helicopter here. Now, we do have two overhead tankers ready to drop retardant should the need arise here. They are just assessing the situation. If they do need those tankers to drop, they're going to try and figure out what flank of the fire they want them to drop on here. So we have a few more aircraft in the sky. If you notice from our shot, it's gotten a little bit longer here. We've had to bump up another 1,500 feet to make room for the air attack folks, as well as some of these retardant dropping tankers here. But you can see this is going to be kind of the northern flank of the fire here. This is going to be northern, the north part of Charmel Lane that we've been talking about pretty much all afternoon long here. So this is going to be one of the more active flanks of the fire here. The flank of the fire that is closest to the ocean, the southern flank, has essentially died down quite a bit. It has laid down quite a bit. I can still see a couple of open flames, but most of that side of the fire has already burned through most of the vegetation that is available there. So they are kind of focusing or redoubling their efforts over on the northern flank of the fire here, and that's kind of where they are going to be focusing their efforts on. Usually, well, there's another fire helicopter drop, as well as tankers. So if they do need these tankers here, they are going to be at the ready. They're basically in a holding pattern above the fire here, and waiting for the assessment from the air attack folks to figure out where they want them to drop retardant if they do so. Again, given the terrain, the canyon here, that's going to be an exceedingly tough place to get a retardant drop in, but we're talking about some very skilled, some very experienced pilots who might be able to do that here. So that is kind of what's going on here. It's just kind of a waiting game to see if these air tankers are going to be needed at some point in the firefight here. But I can tell you that one of the more active flanks of the fire is going to be up canyon, the northern flank of the fire here, where I can see some hot spots that are starting to take off here. So again, this is going to be right below Charmel Lane. Charmel Lane, as we have been talking about, and the associated neighborhood and streets are all under mandatory evacuation now. So this is a fire that does seem to be creeping a little bit northward, a little bit up canyon here. The winds in this case still moving onshore here, so pushing the smoke, pushing the embers, pushing the fire very slowly up canyon. So we will be watching this. In the meantime, guys, I'll send it back down to you.
All right, Mark, thank you for that. And as we could see, the flames inched really close to a lot of homes, sending a lot of folks running from the flames. So a lot of people stayed behind and tried to do some damage with their water hose, but didn't do much.
And Courtney Friel actually was the first person who told us about this impending fire earlier this morning when we were going to her for another live shot during our 11 o'clock newscast. Now you're on the street where that fire happened and threatened a lot of homes there. Hi, Courtney.
That's right. We were covering fire danger up in Agora Hills, and I was with the fire captain who was getting the news that this fire was breaking and we were able to show it to you from a distance. And then it took a while to obviously get up here and for us to establish our live signal for you. But when we got here, this is Vista Grande off of Charmel Lane, which you heard Mark just talking about. It's a dead-end cul-de-sac, and there were tons of water dropping, helicopters dropping water right near these homes, and also using the hose to spray water on as well. And Buzz Harwood right here, his home is right next to that fire engine right there.
Fire truck.
And you were at work and you got an alert. How?
Palisades Patrol called me and told me that there was a fire immediately north of my property. They said they had fire teams dispatched and they will do everything to protect me. But I was worried about our cat who was inside the house. So I raced home.
And at that point, there weren't any mandatory evacuations. So you felt safe to come back up here?
Well, I wasn't quite sure, but I was an hour away and I needed to make something happen. So I at least started to make the process. And my family was watching our house on TV, which isn't very comforting.
And no one stopped you getting back up here?
Yeah, they did, the Palisades Patrol, and then I walked up from the bottom of the hill, or bottom of Charmel anyway.
And to see this activity going on around your home, I don't know, how long have you lived here and what was that feeling like?
Well, it's always a very nervous time whenever you're in a fire area, and we've been here since 2002, so you know, frankly, I'm very uncomfortable when the Santa Anas start blowing because we're always at risk. The last big fire here was in this neighborhood was 1993, and it basically did similar to what this did. Came up and kind of touched the homes, and that was the end of it, although I wasn't here then.
I would imagine that you are always prepared to take your stuff, and actually that LAPD officer who just walked by us right now, I believe is coming around telling people you guys need to leave still.
Right, yeah, that's what I heard. I overheard that, so I guess we're back to evacuation now. So we were let in, and now I guess we're being asked to leave again. So I'll get the cat and go.
Okay, yeah, so that is the plan. I mean, what type of stuff will you bring?
Just probably at this point, just the cat, you know. I mean, we are prepared, but I wasn't prepared this morning. So even though the Santa Anas were blowing.
Yeah, we always have to be prepared in Southern California. Do you feel like things are kind of under control now by the looks of it?
I do, and talking to the firefighters, I mean, they always do a remarkable job. I mean, we're so blessed to have, you know, such quality care and attention to this area. But they've also, you know, feel pretty comfortable.
So this is looking like it's stable right now, but they're evacuating people. I have to keep saying this because I'm using video from another syndicate. I'm using it under the Fair Use Act. I'm just going to continue to watch this. Pray for the firefighters out there fighting the blaze and the people's property that's around this fire. There's been a lot of fires breaking out in California, especially this time of year. So just continue to watch. Phone lines are open if anyone wants to call, 1-408-638-0968, and then enter the member ID 534-233-4758, and then hit pound and then pound again.
Also on KTLA.com if you need to get that information or possibly share it with someone too.
Okay, big concern is the wind, which did shift a little bit in a northerly direction. Let's check in with Liberty.
Yeah, so we've been seeing these Santa Ana winds since over the weekend. Yesterday, they were stronger than today, so that really has helped firefighters gain the upper hand on this fire. But as you can see in this shot right here, this is a shot from here in Hollywood, and you can see that smoke still billowing in the atmosphere. But a completely different story from when we first got on this fire. When it started at about 10:30, 10:40 this morning, we saw very thick black smoke. Now it's beginning to dissipate, and it looks like they are making some Phos-Chek drops right now on that fire. So it looks like firefighters certainly are gaining the upper hand on that. But back to the weather conditions that they're dealing with for today, we're seeing those winds trend mostly offshore. So those are our Santa Ana winds. In the month of October, this is a typical setup. We have high pressure as our dominating feature, and those winds coming out of the northeast create a very dry atmosphere. Now here is a look at our forecast map for those wind gusts. We are expecting those winds to pick up later this afternoon into tomorrow, and then it's really the latter part of this week, Thursday into Friday, some very strong Santa Ana winds expected. Right now we're seeing those relative humidity levels down in the teens. So that just is a good indication that this atmosphere is very, very dry. So warm, windy, dry conditions, that is prime fire weather. Right now you're looking at a lot of 80s and 90s, so temperatures well above the average, certainly warmer than what we saw yesterday. And yesterday was pretty hot out there, so today even hotter than yesterday. But again, high pressure as our dominating feature, bringing us some weak Santa Ana winds. Thank goodness those winds are beginning to die down. Winds not really a huge issue right now, but again, things could change in a moment. But certainly not great fire weather conditions out there. We're still primed for fires across the Southland, so I would suggest just remain on high alert, or at least just remain vigilant. Temperatures, they look like this. This is for the coast. I should just say that. 89. So we should be sitting in the low 70s. Not going to see that until probably Sunday. But we're going to stay well above the average, certainly upper 80s along the coast. That's hot. And also for the basin, 90s. 93 degrees today, 95 degrees on Tuesday. Then a